So good day or morning or afternoon, whenever you all happen to be listening to us, be it live or afterwards the recording. Welcome to the WriteHive 2022 conference panel for freelancing for writers. My name is Tim Baughman Jr. I am the moderator for this panel here today. And, I want to give, as much time to the panelists that will be joining and providing their guidance and their insight into the topic that we have here today. So I will keep my part of things short, but I do want to introduce folks because otherwise you're going to have a bunch of people saying words that you would not know who they are. So I want to start off by introducing Hannah Cates. Hannah Cates never means to get in trouble, but she always manages to do so anyway. As a full-time author and part-time ghost author, she's chalked up misadventures all the way around the world, between being shanghaied along with the French Foreign Legion, escaping Montenegrin castles, and eulogizing at rat funerals. She keeps herself busy. Hannah specializes in middle grade horror, but you can also find her penning tales of cowboy werewolves and insidious alpine hotels. When she's not writing, she's usually sulking around cemeteries, giving tours through haunted cities, or playing honky-tonk piano. Additionally, we have Skeptic Arthfrrind here. Skeptic is a social media coach that helps authors utilize platforms to create a friendly audience. They've been a marketing professional for over 17 years and have helped over 30 people realize their career aspirations. Danai Christopoulou writes mythpunk SFF and romance inspired by her heritage, Greek, Egyptian, and Romanian, as well as her experiences living abroad as a queer femme person and writer. Forever unable to pick one field of study, Danai takes courses in archaeology, history of religions, media, and cognitive linguistics at Linnaeus University in Sweden. In her free time, she geeks about superheroes and time travel, spoils her cats and chickens, and does tarot readings for writers. Danai is represented by Lauren Beaker of Five Print Literary, and her debut novel is currently out on submission. Hello, welcome, and thank you so much for taking time to join us. We will begin with our first question. I'll start off with you, Hannah, and just kind of a broad question to start us off here. What kind of jobs do you think that you find you end up doing as a freelancer, be it that you like or be it that you find or give you the most work as a freelancer?
That's a great question, Tim. Thank you. And I'll start out broad and then kind of narrow it down because I've done a lot of different things. I have written speeches. I have written military strategy for the Pentagon. I have published illicit magazines. I've worked with several different companies in a variety of facets, including copywriting and editing. But over my time as a freelancer and with all the different jobs that I've taken up, I find that what I really love most, what I think makes the most sense for me financially, and what is the most sustainable is editing and ghostwriting. And it's been really interesting because I've gotten to dab my toes in a lot of different pools, but editing and ghostwriting, that's really where my passion lies. That's really where I've chosen to niche down. And that's what I enjoy doing the most.
We'll go to you next, Skeptic.
I really like this question. My job, I have also written a speech or two, usually on the subject of foreign affairs. I tend to find more work on the fringes, works that net me like $25, $50 here, $100, $300 there. Between content writing and copywriting, I tend to be able to, keep the lights on and, the occasional monthly stake. Like the work is there, you just need to know where to look and how to ask for it.
Fair enough. Sorry, go ahead.
And I forgot to add this, and because when money gets tight, it's hard to ignore the purse you get from writing a little bit of adult material. The money's just a little too good to ignore sometimes.
So the bulk of my work used to come from websites like Upwork or Fiverr. where there's like job postings, and I would usually go for things like copywriting or email marketing, which is my background, and I've been doing that for a long time. But the past few years, I'm also trying to focus on freelance editing. So right now, the part of my job that gives me the most joy and is not writing my own novels, obviously, has to do with editing books of other writers or helping them work on their query packages and synopses and all that stuff that is sometimes very stressful to do for writers. So I help with that. And there's also a part of me where I do like, I work as a ghostwriter for everything from magazines and websites to, I don't know, I've ghostwritten a couple of novels actually. So a little bit of everything, you would say.
That's really interesting. And with the ghostwriting side, what experiences do you have with that are applicable to freelancers? Because I know a lot of freelancers do get into ghostwriting, but it's not necessarily like it's something that every freelancer who does writing things also does.
No, it's interesting because for me, it just started as another thing that I found on Upwork, but then it ended up being a big part of my day-to-day. It's interesting because it really depends on the kind of project. If it's like a series of articles, or if it's like a series of social media posts, or if it's a whole book, if it's fiction or nonfiction. So it really varies here. The thing is that the learning curve is the work itself, in a sense. What I found very interesting in terms of my fiction was that I first started as a ghostwriter, writing novels for other people. And that made me both a better writer and a better editor, if that makes sense. Because first it gave me the freedom like to experiment without being tied to this like stress and perfectionism that comes from like working eponymously on your own stuff. That doesn't mean you will do a worse job when you're doing it for someone else, but there is like this mental barrier that is not present when your name is not on something. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
And then after working on like a series of books of both fiction and nonfiction, you kind of get like a broader perspective of both your strengths and your weaknesses as a writer, and you start to pay attention to things that you didn't before. So basically, I would highly recommend this to anyone who can do it. I would just recommend it.
Well, and I think that kind of leads into my next question. There are a lot of avenues, as you all just shared, that can provide you with money, be that kind of standard things like editing or ghostwriting, or, as you said there, Skeptic, be it writing, some sort of adult material, whatever it may be. That said, regardless of what you are doing, freelancing can be challenging in terms of being able to budget your time, being able to make sure that you meet any and all applicable deadlines for the work you have. What tips do you have for folks who are newer or even a little bit more seasoned and looking for guidance with freelancing in terms of managing their time and becoming the most effective freelancers they can?
Superb. This is so good. So if you're new to freelancing, I understand like the passion to dive in and start taking as many paying projects as possible, and bringing in a payday to drop the 9 to 5. And I have to tell you, that is the fastest way to burn out. Writing is more like an investment than it is anything else. What happens is you will write for somebody who pays, and you will earn not a lot of money. As time goes on, you will find that you're earning a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And one day you're going to realize, oh, I'm actually living pretty well these days. For the new person, you're going to be juggling 3 different jobs all at the same time. You're going to be an accountant because you have to make sure your numbers work. You're going to be, or we can reduce that and just make you a bookkeeper. Worst case scenario, you have to keep your books. Your second job is going to be your own personal assistant. There are apps, there are websites, there are plenty of resources, and I'll be available at WriteHive to go into more of this at Q&A for specific resources at hand. But you have to be able to track your own schedule. If you're taking on a feature project of 2,000 words, don't take that job if it's only paying $10. You're going to overstress your mind, and there's like the payout will come out to less than $5 an hour, which is not an effective use of your time. The third job you will have is the actual producer. You're going to be the person producing the written content, whether it's copy, content, social media, Canva work, or whatever. You'll have to manage those three jobs at the same time. For the more seasoned people, make sure your working relationships with your clients isn't strictly transactional. A lot of the work I get these days are strictly referrals, and this is because I spend time understanding the clients I work with, what their needs are, and I do something that I find very uncomfortable. I ask for their business. That is a direct question I ask. I specifically say, can I have your business? Or I would like to have your business, please. And there's a tip for everybody. Never underestimate the power of please and thank you. I've won deals because I've said please and thank you. Whereas where people who have charged less than I have and work faster than I do, never ask please and never say thank you. I have one where better and faster people fail because I'm nice, where I try to be. I get more business from my relationships than I do new business. And that happens because I develop the business, because I'm developing the relationship with those business owners. It's not enough to find out what they need for the job. I want to know what they need for their business. I not only ask for their business, I ask them for referrals. And I don't do that once. I do that multiple times a year. Hey, go out to the people you interact with and tell them, hey, I've got this great content writer and he gets me on the first page of Google every single time.
Hannah, we'll go to you. Same question.
Yeah, that is fantastic advice, Skeptic. And I'm actually taking notes on what you're saying, because these are things that we have to hash over and over. The power of being friendly, the power of the ask. And I know for a lot of people, especially because I work with a lot of authors, and originally I, got into freelancing, being an author myself, and it's hard, and sales feels sleazy. Asking for business is immensely uncomfortable. It feels sleazy. And we really have to look at that relationship that we have with sales and that we have with ourselves. Pretty daily, I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, do you believe you do a good job? Do you believe that what you are offering and the services that you are providing is ameliorating your client's experience, ameliorating their lives, and helping them become better writers? And then I look at my results. I'm like, yeah, well, that client is agented now. That client is a bestseller. Yeah, I do a good job, and my clients come back to me. So like you said, Skeptic, when you ask for a sale, it's not about being sleazy. It's about providing a service. It is a transaction, but you made another good point too, building that sale into that relationship, and then that relationship into a friendship, because those are the clients that stick with you. Those are the clients who are comfortable. I've got my biggest sales are ghostwriting manuscripts. To ghostwrite a full manuscript, it's not cheap. And the people who contract me to do that, because the project takes a year to a year and a half, they need to know me. They need to be able to trust me. They're going to be interviewing with me anywhere from 50 to 150 hours. We are going to be spending a lot of time together. And if the book is memoir or narrative nonfiction, I had a lady tell me the other day that I know her better than her husband. knows her, which is kind of, arresting, but also really interesting. She's like, yeah, you're like my therapist. You're my ghostwriter. I, came and shadowed her for about a month. It's a very personal relationship in that aspect. And I worked for her on various freelancing projects for a year and a half before she got to the point where she was looking at other ghostwriters and she contracted me. And that relationship is everything. And you made another good point, Skeptic. I'm not going to answer the question. I'm just going to hit on all your points because they were so good. As far as your day job goes, and so many people say, oh, I want to do what you do. I want to quit my job. As with all writing, I actually got an email the other day, and there was a young man who said, oh, I've written this epic high fantasy and I want to pay off my student loans with it. What do you think? I said, I think you should go get a job, honey. I really do.
My
The
sweet
last
summer
statistic,
child.
yeah, the last statistic I saw, an author is doing well statistically when they're making, the average was less than $10,000 a year. And when we talk about livable income or the lifestyle that you want, that gets really claggy. My advice is if you are,
wow.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say none of my writing clients get a deal less than $10,000.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I apologize for cutting you off just there.
No, that's fantastic. But no, that was a statistic that I saw on a presentation. I couldn't quote it, so I mean I shouldn't be citing things that I can't bring you back to a source. But
I remember what you're talking about. That said, an okay book deal is 5,000. A decent book deal is like 10,000. Like a great book deal is 50 grand. A fantastic book deal is $100,000. And I'm just sitting there like, why are we accepting 5,000?
Well, and if I remember the statistic correctly too, it was from a self-published author who was talking about their books that they were marketing throughout the year. And I know that some people, I worked with a doctor who actually quit her job because she was making more than $6 million a year selling, her smutty romance, which, did super, super well. And then I have other clients that, really struggle to make sales. And I'm not primarily on the marketing side for what I do, but it can be a struggle. The point I'm trying to make, let me circle the wagon here, is when starting out, so many freelancers want to quit their day job. What I have found and what has worked best for me was not to put all your eggs in one basket. And that's not to say that you're not going to succeed. That's not going to say that freelancing isn't a good option and that you shouldn't throw yourself into it. But a lot of authors I know too, they're like, oh, well, I want to be an author now, so I'm going to quit my job and live off my books. There is so much pressure that comes with that. And there's so much, in my opinion, pressure that doesn't necessarily need to be there. Because as with becoming an author, there's a difference between seeing your authorship and your freelancing as a business or as something that you do. And that difference makes all the difference. I love editing. I love reading books, but at the end of the day, it is a business. And if you are not looking at it like a business, and if you are not in the mindset of running your own business and becoming your own brand, you are remiss and you're going to have problems later. So where I see a lot of freelancers flounder is seeing their projects as individual products rather than their whole operation as a business and themselves as the brand. Once I started taking myself seriously, because at the beginning, Skeptic, I did exactly what you said not to do. I took on all the products. All the projects. I wasn't making very much money. I was wasting my time. I was running myself in circles. I was exhausted. When I finally sat down and said, hey, this is a business and I need to start running it like a business. And I am my own employee and my own boss. And I'm being a horrible boss to myself right now. That's when things change.
Yeah, that is a tough one also because like I am someone who has ADHD. So like budgeting my time is something I really do not do well at all. But there are thankfully a lot of apps and time tracking software that can help, like Hubstuff, or I don't know, should I mention brands or not?
I mean, other people have, so unless I'm told otherwise, you can, but nobody has stopped me so far. So
okay, so as I was saying, there are a lot of like software that can help people with time tracking and project management. A common mistake that we do often as young freelancers is like to underestimate the amount of time a work will take us. I tend to prefer to take jobs with a flat fee instead of like work per hour, at least in the beginning, until I get a better sense of how long it actually takes me to do something. And then I can perhaps switch to an hourly rate. There are, like I mentioned Upwork before, there are several similar websites where you can start from scratch and build your profile slowly, and then like clients will leave reviews, and then, you know, maybe you take some lower budget jobs at first and then move on from that to a higher pay scale. At the end of the day, you just need to try to not burn yourself out, because like things are tough for everyone, especially for people who have to hustle a lot, you know. And when we are freelancing, we tend to not stick to a 9-to-5 schedule. And then work can kind of like bleed through into your free time a lot if you're not vigilant.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that one of the things you brought up that I would hope you could provide a little bit more context to is, you know, the point that you brought up that you tended, at least initially, to go with a flat rated job, whatever it may be, compared to billing at an hourly rate. And I know that, you know, folks that I have worked with as freelancers, but also myself in the limited freelance work I've done, have tended to follow that same model. Although I know that many in the freelance sphere see that as selling yourself short or not necessarily taking advantage of the time you're putting into the work or whatever. Is there a counter argument you would make to that as somebody who, as you just said, you see that as a very positive thing?
So it really depends on how your brain works. And from what I've seen with clients who want to go with an hourly rate, there's usually some kind of screen recording, which I personally do not find comfortable, because I tend to like write something and then I want to check something, you know, so my attention is very divided when I work. And if you have like a screen that keeps taking screenshots of you, it can be kind of like distracting. So that's one of the reasons that I tend to not like working by the hour. It's true that you can make perhaps more money if you charge by the hour. But at the end of the day, it's just what you feel comfortable with. You should go with that.
Well, so on that same line of thinking, and we'll go back to you, Hannah, for this question. You know, there are things that you have to consider when taking any sort of freelancing job, and you hit on some of the things that you may think of in terms of looking at it as a business. And businesses ultimately make decisions about the customers that they provide service to on a day-to-day basis. How does a freelancer effectively and thoroughly analyze and choose what freelancing gigs they'll accept and which ones they reject? Is it deadline based, monetary, something else? Like, how do you all view this?
So it's a combination of things. Usually, of course, it also depends on the medium, right? Because
Sure.
If it's a job on a website like Upwork, then you can very clearly immediately see what the budget is. So that is solved to begin with. But then on a deeper level, it also has to do with like if there's a clash of values between the project and like myself. So for instance, I will not take writing articles for websites that have a wildly different political perspective than I do, or I would not take any projects that are, against, human rights or something like that. And it might sound weird, but you would be surprised of the things that I found on Upwork sometimes. When it comes to returning clients, of course, there's a different relationship. And then whether I will say yes or no to something is more deadline-based decision. Like, can I feasibly do this within the time, that they want this project to take place?
That is a great question, Tim. And I actually got, I have a mentor who recently was talking to me about the same subject. And she is about 20 years older than me, 20 years wiser in her business. And she is getting business coaching. And she comes to me and she's like, Hannah, I'm not selling enough. I'm not charging enough. My packages don't cost what I'm worth. And that just bowled me over. I was beguiled because I look up to her so much, and she makes a good living. She's a fantastic contractor. She's worked with some huge name charities, and even she was getting this same advice off of this question that you're asking: is how do you find those projects? How do you find the money that you want to make? And the way that her mentor phrased it was, you got to think of yourself as a roller coaster, right? Like, you always see the kids running up the roller coaster and there's a little height measurer. It's so hard to ask to be paid what you're worth. That is so difficult on so many levels. And I know part of it is my personality. I know part of it is mental illness. I know part of it is just me in general. But I think for anybody who has the most confidence in the world, it can be difficult. But seeing yourself as the roller coaster and saying, hey, you know what? If you can't pay me, you cannot ride the ride. You are too short to ride the ride. And that just is what it is. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. So before anyone works with me, Tim, I use Acuity for my scheduling, which I absolutely love and recommend, because what you can do with it is when anybody books a call with me, there's a questionnaire, and the questions are very specific and they're very intentional. Why do you want to work with an editor? Why is it the right time for you to work with an editor? Have you worked with an editor before? What did it look like? What was good? What was bad? And the kicker is, are you ready to invest in an editor? Yes or no? Because even my discovery calls that I do with clients who want to work with me, which I always make sure that I do because I want to meet with them. I want to make sure that we are on the same page. I want to be able to pitch them my process. And the funny thing is, they think they're interviewing me, but I'm interviewing them. Are they going to give me the information? Are they clear about what they want? Do they have the money to pay me what I need for investing in this time? So this 30 minutes of, even before you get to the 30-minute call, right? If you can't fill out the questionnaire, then you're not ready for my services. And then on the call, if I'm talking, because I've made this mistake before in the past, Skeptic, you can probably talk to this too with all of your experience, where I have had said yes to the wrong people. And it ended up costing me money because they did not know what they wanted. The terms and conditions weren't clear, and we were not on the same page. We hadn't come to an agreement. And my mentor also says this to me all the time. She says, Hannah, you cannot have expectations without agreements, which means it is not fair to me and it is not fair to my client for me to just take a manuscript and go willy-nilly, do all this work on it and then give it back and be like, okay, here, pay me. And they say, oh, well, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted this, or I wanted you to tell me how great I am. I didn't want you to actually edit it. And the way I get rid of those people, or not get rid of, but say, hey, I'm not the best fit, I'm going to pass you on to somebody else, is asking those questions and making sure that expectation is crystal clear. And this is scary. This is something that as a new freelancer, I was very hesitant about, was establishing a contract, hiring a lawyer, getting a firm contract in place that I hand to every single client who works with me. Why? Because it protects them and it also protects me. And when I was ready to go out and say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I'm worth, here is my contract. That was a transformative moment in my business as well, because that expectation or that agreement wasn't only spoken, it was legal. And when I started taking myself seriously, my clients started taking me seriously. So that, I'm sorry, what was your original question, Tim? I'm so sorry.
How do you go about choosing which freelance gigs you accept and
choosing.
what you reject? You answered it.
Yes.
You answered other things too.
In a nutshell, make sure that your expectations for what you want are clear, and make sure that those expectations are effectively, clearly, unambiguously shared with your client and communicated with your client. Because when you are on the same page, like Skeptic said, it can be hard and awkward to ask for what you want, or to proclaim what you're worth and acknowledge your own worth. But you will be more efficient, your work will be better, and the overall experience of working with you is going to be so much better when you do.
Have 30 days from the day they receive the article to request revisions. And if there's a major SEO change, they have 10 days to request a revision. I let them know if there's a major SEO change. And it's always 30 days. They can't come back to me 6 months later and go, hi, I know I'm out of date, but can you revise this article you wrote? No, you can pay me for a new article.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't like that. Bye.
And you'd be surprised what people asked for. This stuff happens all the time.
Like there is a copywriter on social media who made a sort of tongue-in-cheek video about POV, you're dead at your funeral, and you see somebody lean over and go, hi, I know this is a bad time, but can you still revise one of my articles? For the newest of new people who are doing freelance work, it takes one jerk to ruin you. And when you're accepting anyone who's going to pay, jerks will find their way out of the woodwork. So here are some client types I will warn you about. They're the arrogant and proud people. They may initially disguise it, but they have they're touchy about a lot of things, and that makes them dangerous. And if at any point you're dealing with a person and you sense someone who's oversensitive or has too much pride, run now, run far away, block them, never talk to them again. Don't even tell them why you're not talking to them. They're not worth your time. Hopelessly insecure people. They're less violent. They're a little harder to spot, but their egos are so fragile. And the slightest thing, they'll start declaring themselves deceived. And it's a slow build. They'll view every little molehill as mountains, and then one day they're going to bite you. And it takes forever to get big for these like little insults to get big enough for you to notice. If you find you have worked with such a person, they are aggressive in how they go after providers. So just that's one of those. It's so hard to find. Then there's suspicious people. They see what they want to see, which is usually the worst in other people. Then there are people who have long memories. They, when hurt or deceived, they don't show anger on the surface. They calculate, they wait until one day they come at you. I had a colleague who started in the copywriting space, and she offended this person. It was a woman in a nonprofit for I think it was like refurbing police engines for future use, like recycling car engines or something. Anyway, they didn't have a contract. And what had happened was she didn't fulfill her end of the contract. She refunded the money on the last possible day. The woman came back and filed a lawsuit. And because she filed on the last possible day, it was still within the statute of limitations. And she took my friend for like $50,000.
Oh my gosh.
The last one is unassuming and unintelligent people. These are people who not only there are people you may come across. They are, in my opinion, they're relatively rare, but once you spot them, you'll always know how to find them. They know the cost of everything and the value of nothing. So when they see, I'm paying you $200 for an article, they don't understand how your $200 is going to bring them $10,000. So that was very long-winded. These are just, and I come from a place of having been burned. I've been very lucky that I've been in like volunteer deals, so it doesn't like they can't claim they've been hurt because they never they never took money, and whatever work I did for them was never public, so they can't say I harmed them. I say this now because if I can prevent one person from being hurt in this way, I'll be pretty satisfied. Contracts, you also want to cover when you're not available. In my contracts, I tell all of my clients I am not available on Wednesday. I am not available on Sunday. You can message me on Wednesday and you can message me on Sunday. I will not respond until Thursday or Monday, respectively. Advice. So when you sell something, you got to think about how much money you're trying to bring in and what is your profit margin. What are you trying to sell and at what price are you trying to sell it? Can you, so if you're trying to replace your 9-to-5 salary and you earn, I'll take the median US salary, which is about $39,000. Can you find one person to sell you to pay you 39 grand? Unlikely. So let's move on. Can you find 10 people to pay you 3,900? More likely. Can you pay 100 people to pay you 39 bucks? Guys, if you can't find a product that 39 bucks is like just hitting the point where people might be really choosy what to part with their wallet. Finally, can you get 1,000 people to pay you $4? And if you can't, and if you are not able to convince somebody, a lot of people, to give you $4, there's something wrong with your approach. There's something wrong with your product. Now this next part, some people may not like this. This is how when I do, Hannah is absolutely right to do a discovery call. And I marginally disagree. It is an interview, and it's an interview both ways. They are deciding if they want to work with you. You're deciding if you want to work with them. I don't do the questionnaire. I wait for the interview to do the questionnaire. And what I tell my potentials is, what led you to me? What has you looking for somebody offering my product? How are you doing now? How do you think I could benefit you? Oh, that's such a great question. How do you think I can benefit you? Because there's a wrong way to answer that. And this goes back to what Hannah said about expectations. If the client has unreasonable expectations, walk away. Unless you know for a fact you can deliver on those expectations, don't promise them. If you can promise them, but that's a little above and beyond what you want to offer, charge more. Openly say, I do X, Y, and Z. I can do this 1, 2, 3 you have mentioned, but I charge, and come up with and be prepared to come up with a number. If you can't come up with a number right then, say, I'll have to get back to you on what that will be, but let's move on for now. Now, I want to share two different experiences I had recently on discovery calls. One was a client who was just waffling. All they really wanted was to know what my price was. And I had caught wind from other content writers. This particular client only wanted to do, wanted the lowest price possible. And when you deal with a person like that, there's a trick I pull. It's not a trick, but I pull a card. So how is your business done? This is the question I ask. How is your business done thus far? They give me the answer, and your decisions have led to this. They always answer yes. And I'm only doing this, and I'm going this way because I know what their answers are going to be when I ask them. These are all pre-qualifiers. So if you don't hire me today, what does your business look like in a month, 2 months, 3 months? And they're going to say something along the lines of, it's going to continue exactly the same. So what would it be worth to you to find a way to improve? What would, does success look like you bringing in more money? They're always going to answer yes. So why don't we start off with a preliminary contract today? And in 3 months, let's revisit this. And if it isn't working, we don't have to continue. A second conversation, this was a harder one. So I am one of 4 content writers in the advanced technology space. I'm talking like bleeding edge technology, Kubler warp fields and things like that. And so there's Garrett, there's Erica, and there's Emily. And the 4 of us talk to each other all the time. And sometimes we're even referring clients back to each other. But we had this new person, and the 3 of them, Garrett, Emily, and Erica, had all warned me that this client was just wasting everyone's time. And I know their pitches, they know my pitch. And when this woman started saying that she was not interested, or that she knew better than I did about how to sell Energon cells, which aren't even publicly available yet, I said, okay, that's fine. We don't have to continue this conversation. And it's called pulling the product back. This potential client was confused. She goes, what's going on? I said, look, I can't tell you to love Jesus. Jesus either lives in your heart or you don't, or he doesn't. You know what my product is, and you knew what my product was before you messaged me, because you're not here because you're able to do this yourself. You're here because you need help selling your advanced tech. You know what I am. You know who Jesus is. So you're either going to come to Jesus or you're going to find your own path. But if you want the promised land, I will deliver the promised land to you, because I can know your product, and I can sell your product to businesses and to customers because I know myself. The hidden 4th job about freelancing is that you're a salesperson, and there's nothing wrong with asking for the sale.
Yes.
There is nothing wrong. Oh, and don't be afraid to no. Out of 100 people, 97 are going to say no. You're going to get 1 maybe. You're going to get 2 yeses. That's freeing. You love no. You're going to love no. No means you can stop spending time on that person and move on to your next prospect. No means you have more time for your projects. No means you can deliver better products in the future. No means you are not spending your money for a client who is not going to pay you.
Well, and no means you're not working with the wrong person. It means not as much of a rejection, or this is not a person you should be working with. Not the right client.
Yeah. This is the time to know the phrase, this isn't personal, it's business. They are not rejecting you. They are rejecting the product. And you the freelancer, need to understand that there is an emotional separation between you and your product. For you new people, I understand how hard that is, because your livelihood and your freedom from your 9-to-5 or whatever you're trying to succeed in depends on your product selling. Divide that emotional bond between you and your work. When I make great content, I know I make great content. I'm sure Hannah makes great content, but I'm not in her market, with respect. Hannah makes great content. She doesn't work in my market. As far as I'm concerned, other content writers can't do what I do. And that's the attitude I have to have. I don't know what they can do. That's a devil I don't know. I'm the devil I do know. There are pitfalls for working with me. I'm not fast, and I like my accuracy. I like having my facts straight, and I will spend a little extra time on the research, and I'm slightly pricier than the next person. However, my content converts. I bring in sales, and I always succeed for my client.
Well, and
I'm sorry that took so long.
No, you made such a good point, Skeptic. I want to piggyback on this too, that there is, and I see this a lot with writers, and I have had to waddle through this quagmire as well, that you don't, this desire for perfection or to land every single client and to be everything to everyone. First of all, it's just not feasible. And second, it's not feasible. And it's not efficient either. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be, the goal isn't to be perfect. It's going to be perfect for your clients. I can't do what you do, Skeptic. I don't write. It's not my field. It's not what I do. I'm very good at what I do. And if my clients need someone else, here's another wonderful thing that I love as a freelancer. I have a lot of clients that come to me, they do a discovery call, and I find that they're just not a good fit. However, I have a network of other professionals, be they copywriters, book coaches, or publishers, or website designers, what have you, that I refer those clients to. And guess what? Those people also refer clients to me, and we knock off a 10% referral rate. So let's say a client, I had somebody recently refer me a $50,000 project. That's $5,000 she made right there just referring me that client. When I signed that deal, she made $5,000 by giving somebody my name. So when you start looking at the broader, it's not, and there's this, I think especially in our line of work, we get so uptight about the competition, right? Like, what are they doing? Who are they landing? Well, I wanted this client or that client. It's the universe is bountiful, and the universe is nothing but bountiful. And it pays in this game to be a bit symbiotic and to have those networks, to have that little black book, to be referencing and referring people who you know are going to be doing a good job. Because even if I refer out to other editors all the time, I get busy, I can't do everything. But when those other editors who I know and trust do a kick-ass job, that reflects really well on me, because that's my acumen, that's my recommendation. So maybe, okay, they go back and they do the editing with the other person, but they want to come back to the publishing house I work for and do the publishing with us. Hey, everybody wins.
So I will.
I just, one last thing. This is going to be super quick. I find the concept of ghostwriting overwhelming. So it's like, I'm very happy to defer that work to Hannah here.
Well, we should talk after.
We should. All right.
Because I've got a lot of people who need content writing and social media.
I'm happy to take them.
So
I'm happy to take them.
We should talk.
We should.
I'm opening my little black book.
My last question is one I've been asking everyone across multiple panels. I want to give you a moment or two. If there's something that you would like to plug or to share or whatever it may be, please feel free to take a moment to do so. Just because, this is a opportunity for you to have your forum to share whatever you would like.
Yeah, of course. So if you go to my page on the WriteHive website, I actually have this link to my page with my editor rates on my website. So people who would like help with their novel or their queries or their synopsis, they can find me there and contact me, and we could work together to make their story shine.
I specifically like to coach people in the creative field, so writers, content creators. I coach in social media management, and my job is to get you off of the launching pad. I have a very low rate that, as far as other social media managers, it is a steal. I have clients already. My approach is encouragement, openness, and forgiving, and all of my clients leave my sessions feeling empowered. It is better to get 2,000 engaged subscribers than to have 10,000 people who never click like. I get you those 2,000. I will help you find your people, and that's something I can back.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to close just with an encouragement. If you are thinking about freelancing, if you're thinking about diving into the pool, I am a WriteHive resident editor. So if you are listening to this and have any questions outside, I'm always hanging out on the Discord. But I want to encourage anybody listening to be gentle with yourself, especially with this leap. And in a leap like this, when it goes into freelancing, and Skeptic, you mentioned this before, and it was, I think, the best advice that was given in this entire session is to really look at your business plan and to reverse engineer what you need. There's such a thing as being too scared, but there's also such a thing as a blind leap into darkness. So taking things step by step, being very intentional, and allowing yourself to. It's not going to go perfectly. There will be good days, there will be bad days, there will be good deals, there will be bad deals, and you will figure things out, even if that's kicking and screaming as you're dragged into the void. It takes time, and a lot of times it takes trial and error as well. So be gentle on yourselves, be intentional about what you do, and do not be afraid to ask for help. And yes, I do editing. So there's also editing if you need editing. I'm good at it. Peace.
All right. For those of you listening to a recording, thank you for listening. For those of you who are attending live, we'll have a Q&A session immediately after this.